Welcome to this Windows channel, and this is the first news bulletin of a new year. We are Wednesday, January 3rd, 2017. It's 2018. So as we are Wednesday, January 3rd, 2018, we have Avere Systems that is being purchased by Microsoft. And just showing one thing is that Microsoft is dead serious about cloud. And basically, this company is the biggest cloud storage company that has clients such as DreamWorks, Sony Pictures, and the Library of Congress. So it's a big player, and I think it will simply put Microsoft even further ahead in the cloud and storage of whatever they want to do with Azure and all these cloud services that are, getting more and more important for Microsoft revenue. Samsung has said that it's keeping its predictions. Usually, year over year, Samsung actually adds a little more to the number of devices they want to sell. This year, they're kind of staying at the same numbers of last year, basically. They plan to sell 320 million smartphones. And it's still the biggest smartphone company in the world. And the two other ones are Huawei and Apple. And to give you guys an idea, Samsung is going to sell probably 320 million smartphones. Huawei, Chinese company, will actually be selling 200 million smartphones. And Apple in third place with 150 million smartphones. Well, there is a big flaw, and we talked about it in 2017, a big flaw, a big security problem in Intel processors. Now, to fix it, they will be pushing an update to all the operating systems that are, of course, running on Intel CPUs. That means Linux, that means Apple Mac OS, and also Windows. But the problem is, on every system, that fix that makes you secure slows down the performance a little bit. And one such user using Linux actually said that the slowdown is as much as 18%. So that's kind of bad news, having to do something that slows down your PC in order to fix a security bug. Google, or Alphabet, has actually moved, and we're learning that today, $19 billion in the Bahamas to just avoid paying taxes. Yep, pretty much. And of course, this is an ongoing battle with companies and many countries that actually are not really happy with the fact that companies are not paying their share of income tax as they should. So this is, of course, another case of, unfortunately, not wanting to pay its taxes. Is gaming addiction a disease, a problem? Well, the World Health Organization has added gaming addiction as a disease in its updated manual that would come out this year, and that will be including as a form of mental illness. So this is kind of interesting, and they kind of define it as if you really play more and more, take more and more time to play, actually avoid doing certain other things because you want to play, and so on. Well, I don't know, and where is gaming addiction really a problem? It's kind of curious, and I think depending on who you are, we're not setting the bar at the same level. Microsoft Edge is still, and of course in December, Microsoft wanted to really do tests of Microsoft Edge in the other browsers. And of course, Microsoft says that Edge is still giving you more battery life than Chrome and Firefox. And in benchmarks that it is also the fastest browser of all. So kind of interesting to have these numbers, and we'll have to try to find a way to do some testing that I could rely on, as my own tests weren't really conclusive. Well, a report that's coming out is kind of painting a bleak picture of online advertisers. They say that now they're using such highly sophisticated methods of harvesting data that's almost scary how precise and how much information they know about you, and that basically they are using every means possible. And one of them is actually harvesting information from your password managers. So, I think we're really going to need to have some kind of cleanup in advertisement online, because it's getting a little too, problematic, I think. Well, do you think that the internet is something that you should always have and can rely on? Well, give you an idea of how governments can do things that might not be very, very cool. As there were some demonstrations in Iran with a lot of people complaining about, the high cost of life and how the governments are not necessarily doing what it needs to do. We know that Iran has now blocked all apps that send encrypted messages, and of course trying to find who are the ones doing demonstrations. And unfortunately, this is a sad state of affair. Now we're talking about Iran, but I can tell you one thing: whatever country in the world you live in, this could happen. So 2 years from now, Windows 7 will have only a few days left for support. And according to an interesting report that Net Applications has actually decided to bring out, they're saying that at the pace of decline of Windows 7, there will be still around 30%, or almost 1/3 of all Windows PCs around the world, that will still be running Windows 7 as we'll get to January 2014. And they say this is going to, of course, be a big problem. Now, they've done several simulations, and the bracket of how many people still using Windows 7 in 2020 varies from 30 to 39%. But as they say, and if you look back at Windows XP, the last year of an operating system usually sees a uptick in the speed of upgrading to the next version of Windows. So that's why they kind of say, well, it should be around 30%. Fuschia, we haven't heard that for a little while now. We had talked about it when they started talking about it back in 2016. Google wants to, of course, is working on an experimental OS called Fuschia. But now, as we're hearing more and more, and it seems to, even though it's still in test mode, it's getting close to completion. And a lot of analysts are thinking, is this going to be replacing Chrome OS and Android? Is this the promise of a one operating system for all devices? A little bit like the Windows Universal Platform. That's going to be interesting to see in 2018, as we haven't heard about this for a while, and now we're starting to hear about it again. And finally, in 2018, what's going to be important to look at is Microsoft versus the Department of Justice. Microsoft is in court, of course, because Department of Justice has always these requests of, getting tons and tons of information on clients, and they just like go there and say, we want this and that's it, with no warrant or anything. Microsoft's kind of a little tired. But they're not alone in here. I mean, there's a lot of big companies like Facebook, Google, and even Apple that are behind Microsoft in this case, and that want the Department of Justice to stop abusing its authority. And they say that it's not too much to ask to just get a warrant if you want to have information about someone. And this was the Tech News Update for Wednesday, January the 3rd, 2018. You enjoy our videos, please subscribe, give us thumbs up, and thank you so much for following us on this channel.